Good morning once again. It's another somewhat beautiful day here. Sun's shining, but man, it is cold. It has turned cold today. It's been for the past 2 weeks. It's been like in the 60s and 70s here, and it's January. But man, I'm telling you what, this morning I think it's 24 degrees, and it is cold. Kind of hard to get used to. But I wanted to talk about something today, and this might be more of like a 2-part series, maybe even a 3-part series, because it's going to be quite a bit of stuff I want to talk about. But I'm going to do something on some fencing. I'm going to kind of show you some stuff that not a whole lot of other YouTube channels show. Most of your homestead channels, your farming channels and stuff, they show you using these nice high-dollar fences, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that at all. But I'm going to show you some ways you can do it cheaper, and it works great. And I mean, there's some sacrifices to doing it this way, but it works, and it'll get you through if you don't have the money to spend on some nice woven wire fences and all these fancy corner braces and stuff. I'm not knocking that at all. It's a great thing if you can do it. But if you can't do it, I'm going to show you what you can do to get the job done. So first off, we'll be looking at like a small animal fencing, mainly goat fencing. That's what I have in this fence here, and and it's not a foolproof fencing. I mean, they can get out if you've got one that's a little crazy, but it works great for us. We've had very few problems with goats getting out in the past. Now, the second part will be on like a horse fencing and a cattle fencing, a cheaper, easy way to do that. And then the third part at the end of the video, or the end of the series, will be like tools used for fencing, and showing you different types of insulators, different types of wire. We'll just kind of show you all that kind of stuff. It'll probably be more of a short video, but it'll just kind of conclude all of this up that I'm wanting to talk about. But anyways, we're going to get started with the first part. If you're not interested in goat fencing, you don't have to watch this one. It's you can I'll post a link up at the top, up there somewhere at the top. I don't know where it'll be, but it'll be up there somewhere to the second video, and it'll be on cattle fencing and horse fencing. And then I'll also post another link back up there somewhere to the third video that, like I said, will be on the tools, different types of wire, posts, insulators. We'll just kind of go over the basics and show you some stuff. But we're going to get started with the goat fencing here. So what we've got, first off, I want to say that all of our fences is electric. Everything that we have on the farm has power on it. I've got a fence box running it all. But for our goat fencing here, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 strands of barbed wire. Now, barbed wire is cheap. I just want to do a little comparison here. If I was looking to do woven wire around what I fenced in right here, it would have probably took at least one whole roll of woven wire. And I think it's about 330 feet on a roll. And that would have roughly costed me $150 for just the wire. I'm not 100% sure about that. It might have been more, might be less, but it would have been in the neighborhood of 150 bucks. Whereas I got through all of this with one roll of barbed wire, and that one roll was like $35, I think. Then of course the post and the T-post would have been the same if you were using woven wire, except if you can see right here, I've only got one end post right there. If I'd have had woven wire, the dog just found out the fence had power on it. Anyways, if I'd have had woven wire up, that stuff has to be stretched extremely tight to look good and do the job efficiently. So right here, instead of a T-post, I'd have had to have another wooden post buried. Then up here at the top, a cross brace all the way across, and then another form of bracing from the ground up to the post to kind of strengthen the whole system up. So you're looking at at least two more posts, wooden posts, of what it would have took, and then like I said, some type of bracing in the middle. So, and it would have to be like that on each end post and each corner post. So you're like tripling the amount of wooden posts you would use, and these wooden posts ain't cheap. I bought just a couple the other day from Tractor Supply, and I think they were like the 5 to 6 inch post, and they roughly costed me right around $10 a piece. So, you know, that can add up quick when you're fencing in a big acreage. So instead, I get by with using several of these T-posts, which these are right around $3 a piece, $4 a piece, and these are the 6 foot T-post. They're in the ground quite a bit, and that reminds me, these wooden posts here that I've got are in the ground. These were dug by hand, and they're in the ground roughly 3 foot, something like that, and then you tamp them down. And in the last video I'll show you what I used to tamp with. But you tamp them down, like take a metal rod and tamp down around the dirt down there to get that a good firm, get that post in the ground good and firm to where it won't move. So like I said, each one of these wires has power on it, and it is barbed wire. I know some people don't like barbed wire. I kind of hate fooling with barbed wire myself just because it's kind of a pain, but it does a good job. It holds up. This is the 15 gauge barbed wire. You can get a 12 gauge, and you can get less than a 15 gauge. I think you can get like an 18 gauge or something, but I like using the 15 gauge because it's right in the middle. The 12 gauge to me is a little tough to deal with because it's so stiff, it's hard to bend. And when you're putting up barbed wire, sometimes like these little barbs right there and like that, you have to twist those off to get it to fit in the insulator just right, because there'll be a barb right where you want to put it in the insulator, and you can't put the wire in the insulator if there's a barb on it. Or you need to unhook it to you need to take it off just to get it into your end post, your end insulator, which I'll show you up here in a minute. But so you want to I like to use the 15 gauge just because it's still strong, but yet it's still weak enough that you can bend it by hand and use pliers and cut it with pliers and actually work with it. So the next thing I want to show you is sort of like a cheap alternative to a gate. So right here, hope you can see what we've got going on here. There's two wooden posts. Now I made this opening big enough to put a 6 foot gate in if I want to, but for now I don't have a gate, and I got it 6 foot just because all I'm really going to drive through here is a mower to get in there and maybe mow the pasture down if I need to. My big gate will be down here on the other side when we get done with all that. Just in case you didn't know, all of that out there, that patch of woods, is getting cleared off. So we kind of have a temporary fence set up over here, but this here is permanent, and we're not going to finish fencing that in until the grass, until it's cleared off and we get the grass sown and kind of got a good stand on it. But anyways, back to the gate. These little things right here are way cheaper than using a gate, and honestly they work pretty good too. You just can pull it loose. If you can see right here, see it's got a spring in there, and it keeps tension on your wire, but yet you still can undo it. It'll move just enough to unhook it from the hook here. You can see right there. Now those insulators are specially designed for those style spring gates, and you tie the wire to one end and the spring gate goes on the other side. And that's what I was talking about right there. It's like right here on this section of wire that I run through that hole, I had to take off all the barbs so it would fit through that hole, and then so I could wrap it around. And I mean, it's nothing fancy, I've just got it wrapped, and that's really all you need on barbed wire. But So I want to explain what we've done and why this works for goats. We've got 4 strands here, and these 4 strands are fairly close. Like on a cattle fence, you would probably only have 2 strands, maybe this top strand and this strand. That's about all you would need. But the goat fence, where the goats are smaller, you need this bottom one here, so the little kids, that'll keep them from coming out, and then they're so close it keeps the goats from actually jumping through the wire. And they will do that, even if power's on it. They will jump through the wire. So that's just something to consider here. And actually, the more wires you put, the better you probably are. But we chose to go with 4. It kind of looks good, and it works good. But I'm gonna cross into the fence here and show you something with these spring gates. Now, just all I had to do to get in this fence was take off this top one, and I could step over those 3 right there. You just hook it back, and you're in. Now, for reference here, I've got 4 of those spring gates back there. I'm gonna guess on the high side and say they were $5 a piece. I think they were really like $3 and something, but let's just say 5. You got $20 invested in that gate, plus the little hooks for the spring gate to hook on. Now those you don't have to have. You can like rig up something and tie you some barbed wire around and just hook it back onto the barbed wire, and that'll work. But I wanted it to look good because it's right here at the house. But here's your other alternative to a gate. And if you put up goats or sheep or any kind of small animal, you have to use a gate like this, because a regular bar gate, they'll jump through it. They'll jump through those bars. And this style gate with this paneling in it is quite a bit higher than a regular gate. This is only a 4-foot gate right here. This is a walk, just a walk gate, because later on we're going to fence around our garden here, and I wanted to be able to turn the goats into the garden when, say, we're done with the garden, and I was going to let them eat up all the trash and everything that's on the garden, and then kind of poop it all back out on the garden. But anyways, so I'm pretty sure this gate was almost $100. It may have been $100. So you're looking over there at that spring gates, say $20, and then say another 10 or 15 for those little hooks to do it the way I did, and that gives you a total of like $35 to get into that fence over there on that side, whereas I've got 100 here. And you've got to have some way to continue the power from one side of the fence to the other, because you don't want power running through that gate. So you have to take a wire, which all I've done here was do something simple. And I got another one of these spring hooks right here, and I've just got the wire continuously going over to the rest of the fence over here. But typically what you would do is bury a wire from that post, bury it under the ground, and back up to this post. So it's still a little more trouble to do it that way. And but now a swinging gate like that does look good. It makes things look good, and once it's done, it's easy to work with too. But I just wanted to show you this stuff here. Now this is what we use for our goats. I guess you could probably put some sheep or lambs or something like that in it. I don't know. I've never messed with sheep and lambs, so I don't know much about those. But this, like I said, works with our goats. It does a great job. The only time I've ever had a problem is with the little kids, and they're not going to go far. If they get out of the fence, they're not going far, because they're not going to leave their mama. So they may hop through like the bottom wire, but like I said, they'll jump right back in. It's not like they're going to get out and run away. They're not going to do that, trust me. So well, one other thing I did want to say here is, before, I don't know if you've been keeping up with the channel, you'll know that all of this used to be in trees, and we cut all this down, and I took down my old goat fence and I put up this new one here. This new one's just been put up. But before, our old one was basically the same thing, except it was just 3 wires high. I didn't have this top wire. And the reason I did add in that top wire was because the goats did kind of, if you got a billy in here and you had a new goat in the pasture, a new nanny in the pasture, and they started chasing it around and acting stupid like they do, I'd had the nanny jump over the fence. And I'm kind of trying to prevent that. Now, once again, she didn't go far. All I had to do was kind of get around in front of her and round her up back up, and she jumped right back over into the fence. And so it wasn't that big a deal, but I'm hoping that top wire stops that, because when they jumped the fence before, they were just barely clearing the fence. Getting their hoofs was kind of dragging that top wire. So I think this 4th strand that I've got here will prevent that from happening. But that's the basics on this type of fencing. Like I say, most people for goat use the goat wire or some type of woven wire, and that gets expensive quick. I would tell you a total I've got in this fence, but I don't really know, because a lot of this stuff I already had. I didn't have to buy much of it. You know, a bag of these insulators are roughly $5 for 25. Then we've got the wooden insulators here. These just screw into the post, and your wire goes down through that notch and slides down in there, and then it can't get out. But like I said, we'll get more into the different types of insulators and stuff when we get to the very last video. But that's the basics of this here goat fence. Like I said, this is just a cheaper way to keep animals on your property. You know, not everybody has a ton of money, especially if you're getting started out, to invest a great deal into a fence. I mean, yeah, you want your animals and stuff, and you need your animals. And see, we were always like that. We wanted our animals, and with our cows and stuff, and we sold cows, we eat cows, we done everything, and we didn't have the money to invest into a high-dollar fence, so we just got by with what we had, and it's worked. So that's what I'm trying to show you here, is how to get by with a lot cheaper fence that will work. So I'm gonna kind of conclude this video right here. If you have any other questions about the goat fence, something that you wanted to, you need to be answered, just leave it down in the comments. I'll get back with you. Don't forget, like I said, we're doing the second video will be on on a horse fencing and cattle fencing, and it's basically just a cheaper way to have your horses and your cattle too. You don't have to have a fancy woven wire fence for that either. So be sure to watch that video too. I'll have a link to it at the end of the video. It'll be here somewhere. And if you want to continue to see tips like this, and anything, we're going to be showing all kinds of stuff on the farm. Just remember to hit that subscribe button and check us out. We've got several hog videos that are going to be coming up. We don't have our hogs yet, but we will be getting them soon, in about a month or two. And I'm going to be going over some hog lot stuff, and you can just kind of follow us out through the year on us raising out our hogs. And what we do with that is we'll buy them while they're still babies, raise them out to about 500 pounds, and then we slaughter them and eat them, man. That's where we get our food from. But that, like I said, that's going to be in another video too. I'm just kind of giving you a little insight on what's going to be happening on the channel. But as always, thanks for watching. I appreciate it. Remember to hit that subscribe button and like button if you like what you saw. And if anybody sees anything I'm forgetting, please leave it down in the comments. Or if you have a different suggestions, leave it down in the comments. Or even a problem with what I've got going on here, leave it down in the comments. I'll be more than happy to listen to any of it. And but like I said, this works for us. That don't mean it's going to work for you, but it works for us, and it has worked for us for several years. So like I said, thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.